Okay. Back to the exercise-related videos. After my more serious one I did that some of you saw yesterday. I'm sitting here on my laptop in bed, being lazy because it's Sunday, and I was reading a few posts and a few discussions online that inspired me to maybe share a few thoughts on this. And that's regarding the endocrine system, or more appropriately, more accurately, how many in the fitness industry like to approach the endocrine system. And everything I say here is just based on my own very limited understanding. I'm not trying to claim any significant degree of expertise on the subject. I am not an endocrinologist, nor will I ever be one unless something very drastic changes in my life. But with regard to fitness professionals, trainers, group exercise professionals, and dietitians as well, people that work in diet but they aren't necessarily medical doctors practicing endocrinology, it's extremely important to have an understanding of the endocrine system, have a basic understanding of the fundamentals of how hormones work and how they can contribute to body composition, to satiety, to eating habits, to a person's ability or inability to achieve a specific body composition that's desired. With that said, there's a difference between having that understanding or having that appreciation and deciding one day after reading a few articles that you feel like a hammer and every problem now looks like a nail. What I mean by that is, it seems to me that endocrinology is in vogue now in fitness. That is, so many trainers now read a few articles or a few blogs. They learn some buzzwords. They learn what glucagon is. They hear about leptin and ghrelin imbalances and think, aha, that's something I'm going to bust out next time I talk to people, and I'm going to sound smart. Again, it's great to understand what these things are. It's not a good idea to start tossing them around sloppily. Don't play fast and loose with this stuff and think just because you know a few $20 words, you're suddenly an expert on the system. You are not. It's the same thing as if somebody came into you. Let's assume that you're a competent trainer who, knows biomechanics pretty well, and somebody came along and just started tossing around, flexion, internal rotation, muscle imbalance, blah, 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 because they'd heard it somewhere. And, they may have studied the subject for a whole 2 weeks, and now they fancy themselves an expert. Well, I don't know how that would work because, I've studied biomechanics and anatomical kinesiology and these various related subjects for going on 10 years now, and I'm still not, an expert. So just be wary of that in others as well as in yourselves, and I try to catch myself with it too, so I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here, just point fingers at other people. But it is becoming a big problem where people now, instead of just being aware of it, having a background consideration for hormonal issues as contributors to obesity, now we have people whose default position hinges on that. They're now trying to hang their hat on the idea that everybody has some kind of endocrine disruption. Not to say that imbalances don't occur in a lot of people, but the system, the body is, often, it's known for auto-regulating. That's kind of what the whole concept of homeostasis is. And often what we see is that if you correct certain lifestyle factors, a lot of other things kind of wash out. Even if that's not the case, from a practicality standpoint, because we don't have, instantaneous and dirt cheap assays where we can just snap our fingers and have all of the endocrine information we want about a person, about a client that comes in, whether we're training them or whether we're their dietitian or whatever, because we don't immediately have all that information most of the time, and we can't get it without some time and expense, I'm still of the opinion that the most practical approach is to do what we do. Positive lifestyle intervention. So regulating and monitoring the diet and trying to adhere to something that's fairly structured and just pay attention to, where caloric excesses and certain macronutrient excesses might be contributing to an inability to lose weight. Exercise interventions, right? Just getting up and moving and becoming more active, developing more muscle mass as a result, improving bone density, improving blood pressure, having all these other positive lifestyle effects that occur from exercise, right? But focusing on the diet and exercise and general healthy lifestyle approach is still even if the person does potentially have some sort of endocrine disruption, still is a better option, at least initially. So I think the default position for most trainers, for all trainers, should be, let me assume this person is not part of the small percentage of human beings who have an insurmountable hormone issue. And let's just see if lifestyle can do it. And then once you know that there are exercises dialed in, once you know that the diet is really tightly managed, and you don't have calories slipping through somehow because of a lack of monitoring, if you know the person is adhering very well, if you've got all your ducks in a row, and you have to be honest with yourself about that, and the client has to be honest with themselves about that, and everybody has to be on top of things. After that's all taken care of and accounted for, if there is still a lack of weight loss, or there's still a weight gain, or there's still some sort of really bizarre, lack of effect based on lifestyle, then go to the endocrinologist. Then there is a good reason to check things out, but don't default to it. It causes a couple of problems. One, as trainers and like again, as dietitians even, we are not respecting our own scope of practice. We have a limited scope, and we should respect that and operate and excel within that scope. And secondly, we could potentially be contributing to a mindset that I think is dangerous. The mindset that, if I have any problems whatsoever, if I encounter any obstacles, if I have any hardship at all, when it comes to overcoming my own weight problem or trying to get healthier, I can just blame it on hormones. There are people who legitimately have hormonal problems. There are people who do truly have, leptin-ghrelin imbalances that disrupt their satiety. We have people who have an insulin response or glucagon response that's just wacky and screws with their glucose tolerance. We have people who have thyroxine deficiencies, or who have testosterone deficiencies, or estrogen imbalances, and all kinds of other stuff that are way above my pay grade to even talk about. But they are the exception, not the rule. And we need to respect that most people can indeed experience significant improvements in their body composition, in their lifestyle, and their quality of life through the simple, basic, but fundamentally important changes that we can make to lifestyle and diet, exercise, and related supporting changes we can make. But I see the appeal of talking about the endocrine system and trying to get all fancy, right? We read an article, again, we learn some buzzwords, and we want to impress people with those words. We want to sound smart. Unfortunately, just because something sounds sexy doesn't mean that it's the appropriate course of action. I know that just talking about the old same diet and exercise thing isn't sexy. It's not appealing. It doesn't excite people necessarily. But what works, works. It's still, in my mind at least, the most practical approach that we can take to this. Endocrine comes later. Again, if the other stuff doesn't work, and you know it's really not working, you really are covering all of your bases, you got all your ducks in a row, then you can move into the possibility, the realm of possibility that perhaps there's an endocrine problem. But that shouldn't be the default position, especially not for a trainer. So I just wanted to share that. Thanks.